Hello there YouTube, how is it going? Got you a game today against Bob64, and let me tell you, this was an interesting game. I haven't been against many sort of proper theme teams. It's normally just sort of, okay, put together a bunch of stuff which works well, and not to say that this team doesn't work well, because it does, but the point is this team is more sort of a, call it like a challenge if you like. I guess the guy set himself this challenge and it turned out to be a pretty interesting gameplay, so I thought I'd bring it to you here. Now, Corsola comes in, he brings in Zeb Striker. I was kind of hoping for this, even though that sounds like a stupid thing to say. The reason I say that is just because Zeb Striker likes to, anything like Zeb Striker or Electrode, I like that to be the lead Pokemon, and then I can lead with Corsola. And the natural reaction is just a Volt Switch, because why would you stay in with the Corsola against an electric type, right? I'll tell you why, because I have the Mirror Coat on my Corsola, and it's going to straight up just destroy the Sork. No questions asked. I guess I only just did it just because I lost about, what, 150 or so HP, and it would have reflected double back, and it probably only just was enough to kill it, but now Zeb Striker comes back in. I was expecting a T-Bolt here because a T-Bolt would have killed me from that kind of range. However, he goes for HP, I can assume Grass, which yeah, would have killed as well. But Zweilous can take it pretty well, and now he switches out. Goes into his Mashana, and I don't know why he brought in Mashana specifically, because I do have the Crunch, which would annihilate it. But I kind of predict the Emboar switch, so that's why I go for the Aqua Tail. But now I switch out. I don't want to take whatever from Mashana. I thought either possibly Trick or Hidden Power Fighting, and I thought Ninjask could be the best guy to take it. Or maybe Signal Beam. I guess it could take a Signal Beam pretty well as well. So now he brings back in Zeb Striker. I go for a sub, just thinking, okay, let's see what this Mashana wants to do. Maybe it's like a Calm Mindset or something. So I get my sub up as he brings in the Zeb Striker. That's fine, I'm perfectly happy with that. Go for a Hone Claws, and Zeb Striker, of course, is very quick, but Ninjask is even quicker. Nothing ever outspeeds Ninjask, put it that way. Goes for a T-Bolt, breaks my sub, and I've got up a Hone Claws, so you can probably guess what's coming next. I'm going to go for sub again just to boost my speed a little bit more, and then I think in a couple of turns time I'm just going to... No, sorry, I don't go for another one. I guess I had 2 up by that point anyway, so I didn't feel the need to go for more. So now I baton pass out into my Zweilous. Again, I could have potentially gone for another speed boost, but I didn't think it would be too necessary, but you'll see how that plays out in a sec. Now Zeb Striker still outspeeds a +2 Zweilous because Zweilous is terrible in terms of speed. However, what is not terrible at is attack, and attack is what he does. Go for a Crunch and take out the Zeb Striker. That is fine, that's great. Now in comes the Braviary, and I wasn't sure if I could take it out with a Crunch, but I thought I'd go for it anyway. I have Dragon Rush, which would have obviously done more, but I feel like Dragon Rush, I think it still has a chance to miss, even with a +1 accuracy boost, because Dragon Rush is like 75% accuracy, and then you factor in Hustle as well. I haven't done the maths properly, so I don't know, but I'm assuming there's still a chance to miss, and I thought, okay, +1 Crunch, that'll probably do it, right? No. So Zweilous goes down, that's fine, I have a backup plan. I have Shiftry. Shiftry is going to go for a Dark Pulse. I had a debate in French class the other day about Greenpeace. Do you know how hard it is to argue something which you couldn't argue about in English in a foreign language? It was interesting, but very hard to do, let me tell you. Takes out my Greenpeace, that's fine. He has Hidden Power Fighting, was that? Or maybe Bug? I'm going to assume Fighting because it does get access to Signal Beam. So I bring in my Ninjask and I just go for an X-Scissor. I think potentially I may have predicted him to... Well, actually, I could have probably set up there, but I was kind of worried about him being like a rest set or something. So, you know, that's how it turned out. So he brings an Emboar, goes for a Wild Charge, and him going for Wild Charge there is actually kind of significant. Although, I guess, had he gone for Flare Blitz, I couldn't have gone into Glalie, but I think the case in this situation is I go into Magcargo anyway, so I could have switched into either one there, really. Obviously Ninjask can't do anything to Emboar because Embor's bulky and Ninjask is frail as hell. So I decide, okay, I'll baton pass into Magcargo and sort of just go on the assumption that Embor himself will be choiced. And, you know, Embor normally tends to be either choice band or choice scarf, so I thought it was a pretty safe assumption. So now Bravery comes back in as I go for a cover. He realizes there's no point in trying to gradually go for a crit on Magcargo because he's wearing himself down. That's fine. In comes the Braviary, and remember this is like a +2 or +3 whatever Magcargo, and it did outspeed the Embor. But Braviary still outspeeds because Magcargo is terrible and has no speed. But not so terrible, my friends, because I take a superpower from what is probably a Choice Scarf Braviary, which is definitely nothing to mess with. And I take it, I live, go for a Lava Plume, and take him out, which is fine, that's brilliant. Now in comes the Kangaskhan, and I assumed it would be like a fake out Sucker Punch kind of thing, so I thought, okay, if I go for Recover, he'll probably fake out first turn, I'll live, then next turn he'll go for Sucker Punch, but no, no. He goes for Earthquake, which I completely didn't even consider that Kangaskhan would carry. I know it gets Drain Punch, but I thought I might live a Drain Punch, which may or may not be true, don't know. Now I bring in Corsola. I don't understand what that play was all about. I had no real reason to do this, so just pretend that play never happened. Sorry, Corsola. Now I go back into Ninjask, and you see that he's switching out constantly whenever I bring in Ninjask or anything which can, you know, take some kind of hit really well. And I think it was around this sort of time that I started to realize, oh, Choice Team, yes. Choice Lock Team, everything has either Choice Specs, Choice Band, or Choice Scarf. I assume the Embor is banded because my cargo outspared, and the Kangaskhan is probably banded. Braviary Scarfed, Zeb Striker, and Mashana Specs, and what was the last one? I forget the last Pokemon. No, Sork. Sork was probably Scarfed as well. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting idea for a team. Definitely something which is not easy to pull off, so even though these are all sort of top NU tier threats, it's still pretty hard to do, looking at the team. But the great thing about being against a, you know, mono choice team, I guess you call it, is that if you have a sub-disabled Glalie with a +1 speed boost, there's nothing they can do, pretty much. I can go for disable. Now he's forced to struggle next turn as I go for another sub. Given that it is a banded Embor, I kind of figured that struggle would still do quite a good amount of damage, so I thought it'd be better off going for sub and then killing him off next turn. So that's what ends up happening. Glalie here. Glalie, Bane's Cat, with his very mediocre stats and sort of not so great move pool, actually has a use. Sub-disable Glalie with Ice Beam and HP Fighting. You'd be surprised how often this has come in handy for me. Very good against stuff like, you know, Bastiodon or any choiced attackers or pretty much anything which is frail and is very kind of victimized by disable. Actually, walls are also pretty victimized by disable. You can disable their attacking move and then go from there pretty much. So, speaking of disabling, in comes the Kangaskhan, and by this point I am kind of assuming he is a fully choice team. Otherwise Kangaskhan could easily go for something else here and take out Glalie. But the great thing is, it is choiced, and therefore I can kind of abuse that here. Go for an HP Fighting, and that does actually not that much to Kangaskhan, because Kangaskhan is actually very bulky. Now the struggle does a little bit more than I'm comfortable with, so I'm just going to go for a sub on the next turn. Then he'll almost kill himself off to struggle recoil, and then I will kill him off with an Ice Beam next turn. I think that's how it's going, we will soon see. And someone, please tell me why Kangaskhan always has a baby in its pouch, even when it itself is a baby when it just comes out of the egg. It's like babyception, a baby within a baby, it's weird. Go for an Ice Beam and take out the Kangaskhan, and that is the end of the game, my friends. So, yeah, that was a really interesting game. Going against the mono choice team, when I eventually realised, it was kind of easy to abuse that fact and then go for, you know, sub-disable or whatever, but I gotta give this guy credit for using such a team, because mono choice is potentially very fun to run, but like I said, there's easy ways around it. You can always tell what they're going to do, you can always force switches, whatever, so it's pretty cool. So with that being said, hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.